In this video, we will see how to copy private VNet data with using Azure Data Factory. So here we will have Azure Virtual Network as our private VNet, and then we're going to create a subnet within that Azure Virtual Network. Now here we will have our data that is stored in Azure Blob Storage, as you see in the screen. So that is our source bucket, which is where we are using the Azure Blob Storage, where we keep the binary large objects will be kept here, like doc file, PDF file, and image file. Now this is our source bucket. Now I want to copy this data from one bucket to another bucket, that is in the destination bucket or sync bucket. But again, this bucket, the sync bucket, is also sitting in the same subnet as our source subnet. So basically, the blob storage is now kept in a private VNet. Now, how do I copy my data from source to sync is a challenge. So here we're going to elevate Azure Data Factory, which is an ETL tool from Azure. We will see how we can create a Azure Data Factory instance and then encapsulate that Azure Data Factory into the Azure Virtual Network over Private Endpoint, and then we create a pipeline, and the pipeline will copy the data. That is, we're going to create a data copy pipeline in the ADF Azure Data Factory, which will copy the source bucket data or source bucket blob data to sync with using this data pipeline that is encapsulated within the private network. And finally, we see that the data from source bucket will be copied into the sync bucket with using private VNet, or basically Azure Backbone Network, which is a secure approach of transiting the data from source to sync. So let's see how we can establish this particular lab session in this video now. Now this is my Azure subscription. So here I have an RG. So within this RG, I have created a virtual network. So this is the virtual network I have here, and then we have a subnets. So here I have one default subnet and one is a Bastion. So here I'm using Bastion subnet so that I can access the private blob storage from a VM. So for that case, we have spinned up a Azure Virtual Network as you see here. So we have spinned up Azure Virtual Network as you see. Now within that virtual network, we have created a VM, a test VM, through which we're going to access the Azure Blob Storage. After we encapsulate that blob storage within the private VNet. So for that case, I, as part of the demo, I'm gonna purposefully encapsulate those two storage accounts. So I have two storage accounts. If I go back to the storage account, so here is the my two storage account. One I consider it as a source, the another one I consider it as a sink. So what I do is, so the source is ending with SAS, the destination is SAS 12. So this is the our a source blob storage. Now if I go to the network settings, so right now we don't have any endpoint. Now as part of the demo, I'm going to encapsulate over the private virtual network or make it private basically. So here I'm going to disable the public network access and then go to the private endpoint. So we're going to create a private endpoint here. So endpoint that I'm creating here is basically for the source private endpoint. So let me call it as a private end. Right, so this is our source private endpoint I'm creating right now, and it is belongs to the US West, sorry, US East one. So I need to choose that region, that is US East one. So East US. So this is my region here. Then we go to the resource here. So the resource within the storage account that I want to keep it in a VNet is blob. So that's the reason I choose that. Go to the virtual network. So here we're going to choose the virtual network. This is the same virtual network where I have created that Bastion host, right? So that I can access the private storage account. So let me keep that as a subnet. Now I will keep the private IP configuration as dynamic. Rest all I'm going to keep it default. Now go to the DNS. Let's keep the default everything, and then finally review and create. So this is how what we do is we're going to encapsulate our blob storage within the VNet. So what happens is, once this kind of configuration is being enabled on your storage account on the blob services, the blob services becomes private network. Okay. So let's go back to the another storage account and we do the same thing for there as well. So right now we are encapsulating our the source blob storage account in the VNet. Now we'll go to the destination storage account. We also do the same configuration here to make it private. Okay, so just for your information again, so we are actually disabling the firewall. You see that firewall and virtual network, that is public network access, we have disabled it. And we go to the endpoint. So here we're going to configure the endpoint here again, same thing, but here let me give the name as sync private endpoint. So this is the name I'm giving to that private endpoint, and the region being East US. That is where our virtual network is sitting. So that's the reason you have to keep it in the same region as your virtual network. So the service that within the storage account we want to keep it over private endpoint is blob. Then we go to the virtual network. So by default, this is a virtual network, and that is our subnet. IP allocations, I'm marking it for dynamically allocate the IP address. DNS, let it be default. Tags, and then review and create. So we're going to create another private endpoint as well for this particular destination storage account as well. Now you see that the configurations are in progress. So we're going to go to the our so now we are working on source and destination async S3 sync storage account blobs. Now we're going to go to the ADF. So here I have created an ADF as part of this demo. You see that right now this is the ADF, and if I can launch it, I can launch it here. So this ADF is currently not enabled with the private networking configurations. Okay, let's do that. And it does not has any pipeline. So if I open this one, so if we go here, so right now we don't have any. So here is the pipeline. So we're going to delete that pipeline. I'm going to set it from the scratch. So we're going to delete it everything. So this pipeline setup was added as part of my testing. So I'm going to deleting this in front of you, and we're going to set up it from the scratch. So we're going to do that. So let's try to publish this particular configurations, and we're going to come back to now. So this is our example data factory. Now what I do is I'm going to encapsulate this as well on the private endpoint. So to do that, or to help you to understand what is the data factory configurations is all about for making the data factory pipeline running over the private endpoint, is go to the network access, enable the private endpoint, go to the private endpoint, and here you configure the private endpoint like say the ADF private endpoint. So this is my name I'm giving to this particular one, and the reason being is region here is our East US. Let's go to the source here, and the source is being of course the ADF only, that is data factory. Then next go to the virtual network. So this also will sit in the same subnet as our virtual machine is sitting. uh, I'm gonna go ahead and review and create. So now, so we have right now completed the step number one, that is understanding how the source and destination and the Azure Data Factories are being enabled with the private endpoint, so that these resources becomes private within the virtual network, right? So when these past resources are in the virtual network, once the virtual private endpoint is enabled, and you go to the that particular storage account and then try to access our container. So I go to that our storage account, that is our source storage account, our stores blob storage account, and we go to the example the container like this, and this is how it is currently working. You see that right now the deployment is in progress. That's the reason it is not throwing the error. We expect that it will throw the error in immediate time. So right now what is there is no within this container we have these many files, right? So now if I refresh it and try to reopen it again, so probably we should get the errors. Okay, so I see that this is not happening, because if we go back to the networking and check if the okay, so we have not disabled the the firewall and virtual network access. So that's the reason it was accessible from the public as well as on the from the endpoint. So right now we enable the firewall, or basically disable the public network access. So the one I'm accessing from the browser is public network access. Okay, let's go back again and refresh it now, and similarly we do for the sync storage account. So when you say sync storage account, remember that I was talking about SAS storage account. So here we go to the networking, and here also we check if we have disabled the public network access. So this is disabled. Now if we go to the sync storage blob, right, and then try to access the sync, it should throw the the access problem. So you see that the request is not authorized, so that kind of error will happen. Similarly, if I go to the cost optimization, which is my storage account, I'm sitting in the the source side, and we try to access our container now, it should throw the error. So this is what, so basically if we have seen that diagram, right, where where we had a source and destination um, blob storage account are now kept in a virtual network. Similarly, we have enabled the endpoint for the story for the ADF as well. So you see that the ADF endpoint is currently in progress, right now. So you see that the deployment has been also completed. We can show you that as well. So if you go to that networking and check the network access, that is private endpoint. Okay, so with this, what happens is any pipeline that we create, it becomes private to the data factory, or it will be encapsulated within the virtual network where this private endpoint is enabled. Now to access to those the blob storage, I have created, as I said, we have created a virtual network, uh, and the virtual network is basically we have created a Azure virtual machine as a kind of a jump host through which I can log in and try to access the blob. Okay, where did I create that? I created in a virtual network. So now let's try to access that jump box. So jump box is nothing but a virtual machine, a Windows virtual machine, and this virtual machine is also sitting in the same you see that same virtual network and same subnet. Okay, and this virtual network, if I go back and try to show you, so this has the two subnet. One is the default subnet where our virtual machine storage account and ADF is sitting, and we have the dedicated subnet for Bastion because we are using the Bastion to access the VM. So now I will go to this VM and say like connect via Bastion. Why I'm connecting to this virtual machine is to access those source and destination blobs. Okay, because we have enabled the private endpoints and we encapsulated those blobs into a virtual network from internet. Now those are not accessible. To access them, I have to go to the a virtual environment or nothing but inside that VNet, right? So to access to inside the VNet, I have to go through a jump box. That is nothing but that is something I'm doing right away. So let me log in into this jump box and try to access those blob storage. So to do that, I'm logging into the the Azure virtual machine with using the Bastion. So this is how you will take RDP of your Windows machine. So I have created a Windows machine here, and I'm right now inside the Windows machine, and I have opened my. You see that I have opened my Azure subscription. So this is my Azure subscriptions within that the within that VM. So if I close these instances, so this is my jump box, which is Azure Windows Server, and then within that we open the the Microsoft Edge browser. We accessed our Azure subscriptions, and now we are in the storage account options. Now I go to the our storage account. So when you see this name, that is SAS ending with SAS, which is nothing but this is our source blob storage. So I go to the container and then try to open the any of the containers. Now these are should be accessible. So that is how make the changes now, right? So basically, to help you to explain in more detail, maybe I will walk you through the picture now. So to make it more clear, now you see that the selected option, that is our virtual network. Within the virtual network, this is our default this is our default subnet that you see here. And within this subnet, we created our source bucket, Azure Data Factory as an example of data pipeline, and then the sink we created. Now all the three resources are sitting in a virtual network. Now another resource that I have not mentioned here is our jump box. So the jump box is also sitting in a same subnet, right? And then from there we are here now. That is into this jump box, right? Or into this Bastion host. through the Bastion host, we are accessing the jump box, and we are able to access the our source and destination, the blob storage. So that is the magic of accessing over the private net. Now the main aim is to show how to copy the data with using the the ADF, which is also sitting in a same VNet. So let's do that. Before that, I want to give a lot of inputs on the private data access. That's the reason I'm showing you all these. Now in the sync, if I open the all those in the we are in the sync uh, we are in the sync Azure storage account, right? And then we are accessing the blob storage, that is and a container within that. And right now I'm deleting the everything from here. It is possible to delete that. You can delete from here, so that I will show you that these files are again appears once I copy from the source blob. Now we go back to the we go back to the our browser. So this is main browser, so don't get confused. So in the my browser, I have two tabs. One is accessing the Azure portal from my laptop internet. The other one that you see is nothing but that is within the Bastion host, which is a jump server. Okay. Now I circled back to the my laptop internet based web portal access. Now we have enabled the private endpoint on all the resources. Now we go to the ADF. So this is very important part. So here what we do is we're gonna create that pipeline that is actually does the copy of data from source to destination. Both are in a private network, right? So to do that, let's try to refresh this and build a pipeline now. So to build a pipeline, what we do is we're gonna go to the author here, and then within the author, we're gonna here is the author. We go to the pipeline and click on a pipeline, create a new pipeline, and here you say the give the generic name of the pipeline, that is data copy, or let me call it as a private data copy pipeline. Okay, this is my pipeline name now. Now this is very generic name we have given. So every time you do some configuration, so there is something a button called validate and validate all resources and publish. You can click on that. So basically right now it does not has anything, right? So that's the reason it is not able to save the things. You can close it. So right now we have given only very things. Okay, so here what I would like to give is I would like to create a parameter for this pipeline. Why parameter? So if I go back to the same picture here, what happens is as soon as a particular file gets created in this source bucket, I want that file to be copied into a sink. Instead of copying entire the files and folders present underneath the particular directory, I want specific file to be copied. How can we do that? We can do that with using the parameterization. So let's give that as file path, the file name, something like that. Yeah. So this is our parameter in the topper pipeline definition. Okay. And let me try if it is successful. You see that it is throwing the error. Why? Because the pipeline should have at least one activities. Right now it is very vacant. It does not has any activity, right? So that's the reason it does not shows anything. Let it keep it is as it is. Now go to the right now we are constructing that private data copy pipeline. So within this pipeline we create a one activity, that is copy data activity. So let me call it as a copy blobs as the name. So because we are copying the blobs from one storage account to another storage account, so this is what I will give the name in the activity. So this is activity, remember. Okay, now within the activity, let me maximize it. Now we are constructing that pipeline activities. What is activities? It has to copy from source blob storage to destination blob storage within the VNet. So I go to the next option, that is source, and this is how we're going to construct the source definitions. We're going to click on a new. So where is our source? So if I go back to the diagram, so the source is nothing but our this bucket, which is sitting in the same VNet and subnet. Now here let's search for blob. Okay, that is Azure Blob Storage. So we're going to call it as a continue, and here I'm going to choose binary. So when you choose a binary, you can copy the Word, PDF, GIF file, and any coding file can be copied. While other parameter like CSV, Excel sheet, you have a specific one, you can do that. For now, I'm going for Word and PDF copy, so that's the reason I'm going for binary. It is the same for other thing as well. So let's give the name as source linked services ls, right? And then let me create a new one as the blob storage source, And then here we need to use the connect via integration. So what is the linked services, right? Remember that linked service is a kind of a connection that we are creating. It's a connection configuration that we are creating so that Azure Data Factory can access the source and destination blob storage here. So here Azure Blob Storage source linked services we are creating, and the authentication type being system assigned identity. So let me tell you what is system assigned identity. I'm going to circle back to the main tab. So there are two tabs, and remember that these two tabs are from my laptop. Okay, so if I go to the data factory and go to the managed identity, so this is we are in my data factory, and in the settings I'm going to the managed data identity. So here is the managed identity of the Azure Data Factory version 2. Click on a role, Azure role assign. So here you can assign the role. So I have assigned a role called storage blob data contributor because it is doing a copy data. That's the reason I've given this one. Now I will try to give another role for the part as part of the demo as well. So let's choose the scope equal to subscription. This is a subscription we have chosen, and role I would like to give a role something like a contributor for now, and then click on a save. So once you click on a save, what happens is it also give the access to that managed identity, a role being assigned on the subscription level. But in your case, you can keep it on a particular resource as well, which will make it as a least privilege. So that is the reason we are now I have again switched back to the another tab that is nothing but that is a tab of Data Factory Studio. So when I click on a launch studio, so it has opened here. Okay, so this is nothing but Data Factory Studio, and in the Data Factory Studio, we are constructing that pipeline to make it more clear. Now we are building linked services for the source side. So here we are using that authentication type equal to system assigned. Now I'm going to select the subscription that is like this storage account. So in these two storage account, the first one is my source storage account. Now with that, you can do a test connection. As I said, this linked service is nothing but it is a connection which is used by data pipeline to establish the authentication with the source. So connection is successful, which means that the linked service can be created. So let's click on that. Linked service will be created. Now with using this linked services, I can search the source blob, or basically I can search the source blob storage. So likewise, it is actually identifying that. Okay, you see that it's a test ADF. So I'm going to choose that particular folder because from that folder or from that the container of Azure Storage Blob, I want to copy the data and store it in a destination somewhere. So likewise, we're gonna go here and click on OK. So with this, what happens is we have set the definition of source blob storage, but this is not enough. There is something we can change it. I'm gonna click on again. Remember, right? So I'm doing it, deliberately. So make something dynamically. So here, what we do is so here we need to give the um, basically here we need to give the parameter. Why parameter? Because as I said here, I want to make the pipeline to accept the parameter and then run the pipeline. In the parameter, I'm going to say like, hey, this is the file you have to copy. So that's the reason we make the Azure Data Factory pipeline as parameterized with this option. So we're going to create a one parameter called file name. So if there are some changes in the files, I want that file to be copied. That's the reason I want to make this file name as parameterized. So we're gonna choose that. Right, that is how we have defined here. Now we go back to this one. That is back to the source. Now you see that there is a so basically here we are declaring the source dataset. In the source dataset, it has a parameter called file name, and the value of that file name has to be added. So how do I add it? Just click on that value. It will automatically give a link called add a dynamic one. Now choose that particular parameter that gets automatically popped up, and you see that in the tab here. So if I open this one, so when I choose this one, so it automatically says that hey, from the pipeline there is a parameter called file name, get that, or basically reference that parameter here. So with that, what happens is your source data set becomes something like this. So if I go back to this one, so your source data is nothing but from this storage account, and the path is ADF and including the file name. So that is how it will come down. Now, if I go down, so keep the file path equal to file path in the data set as it is, and we're gonna uncheck the recursive because I don't like recursive in this case. And in your case, you can enable it. Now, with that, we are done with the source definition. Let's go to the sink definitions. right? So here we are actually creating a activity definition. So in the activity of the Azure data pipeline, you have to define a source and sink. So that's the reason we are doing it here. Now we go to the sink, dataset configurations, click on a new. Here we need to choose the one service, that is Azure Blob Storage. Click on continue. So here also we're going to choose the binary as mentioned in the source. Let's give the the name here is like the sync blob. Let me call it as a sync blob, right? And then the linked services, let's create a new linked services. So here let me call it as Azure storage, Azure blob storage sync is the linked service name in the sync side. Now, so likewise whatever we have done, right? So similarly, since we have given the ADF access on a subscription level, and our source and destinations of the storage accounts are kept in that subscription, so by default the managed identity of the Azure Data Factory carries the access. So that's the reason here, while constructing the linked services for Azure storage, right, and we're going to use the system assigned managed identity. And here is the subscription, here is my storage account that is ending with SAS 12, which is our sync storage blob or blob storage. Click on a test connection so that you validate the connection here. So I'm clicking on test connection, the connection is successful. So click on a create. So this is how it will look like, right? Our source sync blob is like this. Now click on a file path. So we created this sync container. Right now it does not has anything, so we're going to copy that and then click on OK for now, right? And this is how it looks like. But click on another time. Why we are clicking second time? Because we want to complete it. This is incomplete, so we're going to add a dynamic the content as well. So dynamic content is basically here, from the source whatever the file path will be there, so I want same file path to be copied into the destination container as well. In the destination we have a Azure blob storage, within that we have a container, and within the container I need to keep the file name as it is there in the source. So that's the reason we need to give here again one more parameter, that is file name. So we're going to give the name equal to file name and click on a save. So click on that and you do like this. Okay, select that particular file name parameter that you added. That's it, right? So this is how basically it will look like. Now go back to your private data copy pipeline, and in the sync you see that this is how dataset property gets automatically mapped. And here you again click on add dynamic and click on a file name. So you see that it is now referencing from the pipeline, the file name parameter from the pipeline parameters only, right? So basically we declared the parameter in the general. So if I go back to the general here, so here we declared one parameter, that is file name, that is used in the source. Similarly, that is also used in the sync as well. So that is how it will come down. Maybe if you are getting confused, try to watch the video by making a stop so you will understand it, because this is a little bit confusing, I would say. So with that set, we are done with the required configuration. Let's click on publish file. So in the publish definitions, you can see the changes, that is pipeline changes. We're creating the new pipeline. We are creating a two data sets, that is one is source, the other one is sync, right? And then we have the the linked services, right? So source and sync linked services are being created, and click on publish. If everything is good, the pipeline definitions will be accepted from the Azure Data Factory, right? Or else you will have the errors. When you have the errors, I would suggest you to investigate on the errors and try to fix it. Now you see that our pipeline is published. So with that you can close everything and go back to the here to the home, to the authors. Now you see that you have a pipeline. So you have a pipeline with the names, that is private copy pipeline. So this is how we set the pipeline. Now it comes the parameter. Now you click on the private data copy pipeline, it has a parameter, that is file name. And what is it asking? It is asking that is a string, right? So it is a type is sync, and it is name, it is asking for a file name. Now with that said, now time has come to do a testing. So to do a testing, what I do is, I'm going to switch over to the other tab, which is nothing but what? It is nothing but our, okay, let me reconnect it. So that is nothing but our jump host, which is being accessed with using a Bastion host. Right now, we'll circle back to the our storage blob, which is a source side. So our source blob name is ending with SAS. Now from this, the storage account, we go to the our mapped container, that is test ADF. From this, we're gonna copy this file, that is mdpng, in the destination. I'll go back to the again storage accounts list and choose our destination storage, blob or blob storage. Within this, you go to the blob services, or the so here we're gonna go to the containers. Within the containers, you go to the sink. It does not has anything right now. So when I run the pipeline, so it should working. So that is what I want to do, show you. Okay, so let's do that. And here now again I switch over to my laptop internet. So this is my laptop browser, and we are invoking the pipeline from my laptop browser only, not from the jump server. You can do from the jump server, but I'm not recommending you. Just try to run it from the your laptop browser or from the internet only. So to do that, you're gonna click on a add trigger, right? So there is an add trigger. Click on a trigger now. So this is how you're gonna trigger it. And here is the file name you have to give. So you want to copy this md.png file from the source to destination. So when I click on this one, you see that the pipeline is currently running. So when it runs, it's gonna take certain amount of time. Let's wait for that. One more tip is, you can go to the monitor. So there is a monitor button here, and try to see if the pipelines are running. So I previously, you see that there are the other pipelines was there that was running. Now our pipeline name was private, is private data copy. Looks like it is succeeded because that file was very small, so it should be very easy. You can see that it is succeeded, which is very good sign that we have successfully completed this lab. And here is the investigation that you can do, right? So you are currently in a monitor. Now you are opening that instance of pipeline, and then here is the spect button, that is details button. Click on that, and you see that it has copied successfully. How to validate that? Let's again jump over to the jump server. How do I see the jump server in the my tab? By seeing a VM name. So when I click on that VM name, it is takes me to the VM session that is accessed over the Bastion service. Now when I go back to the storage account now, and try to see my destination storage account, and go to the container services here, and click on the our destination folder or container, that is sink. Here you go. So here is the md.png file is now copied. So remember that in the destination, so in the destination it copied only one file, that is which I wanted. I mean the sense which I want the Azure data pipeline to copy. That is the only file it copied through the internet, through the backbone network or through the private endpoint. So that is the peculiarity of this particular lab session. So we go back to the again to the source container. So here is the mdn file, so that got copied. Now let's try to copy the docs file as well. So to do that, again I'm going to go back to the pipeline and try to run the pipeline again. So let's go back to the author. So always there are two buttons, that is author and the monitor button are important for us. Now click on a trigger now, add trigger, and give that name. So give the name correctly, or else it will not copy anything. So click on that. You see that the pipeline is running. So we're going to see the pipeline running by clicking on monitor, and just refresh it. You should see the instance of the private data copy pipeline will be running. So here is the button, like you can cancel it, or you can basically cancel recursively, something that you can do it. Right now it will take a couple of seconds. So that's it. So it got copied. So we're going to open that, and then you can always inspect the what happened. So it copied the 16 KB data. I'm going to go back to the go back to the, so this is always gets disconnected. You can reconnect it. I will go back to the the destination blob and check if this doc file got copied. So we go to the storage account and go to the this particular storage account, that is destination storage account. Explore the container here, and then go to the sync container, and here you go. So what is the thing that I'm showing here is we just now copied the docs file as well, png file. Now I would like to copy the another last file and conclude the demo. So here I'm trying to show you that it is able to copy the different type of files, that is image file, doc file, pdf file, and all. Right, so let's try to copy the word file as well, basically pdf file as well. So I have one pdf file, so let's copy that. So this is the pdf file I'm going to try to copy now with using the pipeline. So remember that our pipeline is running from the backbone network with using the private endpoint. So running from the backbone network means it is using the Microsoft hosted network, right? And then click on a trigger. So here I'm triggering this pipeline for third time to show you that it will copy the PDF file as well. So let's wait for this instance to get go green so that we conclude that the it is able to copy the different binary files as expected, and it is not copying entire content of the files, entire content of the folder, but only specific file which will be a specific need of a use cases in the enterprise. Now with that said, I'm gonna go back to the so we're gonna go back to the storage account here and click on this particular storage account here, and in the so let me try to go to the containers. In the containers, click on a sinks. Now here you go. So we got a test PDF file also being copied from this particular source to sync with using the ADF. So if I go back to the diagram now, you try to see the diagram. So this is what exactly we have tested right now with everything set up as expected. So basically this is a highly secured data pipeline that we have executed, and it is working as expected. So with that note, I have shown you the things need to be shown in this video. Finally, I can't request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. With that note, thank you. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.